All right, welcome back to the show. My name is Ryan Morrison, and today's guest is Claire de Vries. She is a filmmaker, creative producer, and a future name to know in the entertainment world. A recent honors graduate from the University of Michigan's Film, Television, and Media program, Claire led Imagination Films, one of the most active and ambitious student-run production groups in the country, helping bring dozens of student professional projects from idea to festival screening. Super excited to jump into her recent film, We're Not the Same. Welcome to the show, Claire.
Hi, thank you so much for having me.
Awesome. Well, I'm super grateful to meet you. I've been friends with your mom, Melanie, for a while.
Yeah.
And so, I'm really excited to jump into the film. So could you talk just a little bit about the inspiration for it?
Yeah, of course. So the film kind of began when I was sitting in one of my film theory classes and we were watching Vertigo. And I remember just kind of feeling so frustrated by that film. Like, it's regarded as one of the best films of all time, but the women characters in that film had like no autonomy and they were just so objectified. And I was like, I wanted to write a film and make a film that kind of subverted that and was like, okay, let's make a film with these kind of similar aspects of like the psychological thriller and like and this intention, but then kind of change that and make it written by women for women. And so that's kind of where the project all started. I got two wonderful advisors on my Michigan professors to help out on my honors film, David Merrick and Jim Bernstein, and they were incredible in advising me through all the way. And as I started beginning, I knew the film, I really wanted it to be about sisters. Myself, I have a wonderful older sister, but when we were younger, we were in competitive horseback riding, actually, and we were constantly kind of compared to one another, and I remember that feeling of like never feeling enough and always wanting to be better or wanting to be like her. But then, and I kind of wanted to symbolize that in that film, like the comparison that women go through. So I decided, like, hey, let's make this film about sisters or half sisters in this case, and kind of explore that tension. And then that's kind of how the film came to be. And it was a 1.5 year long process, but it was so incredibly fun making it.
Yeah, no, I really enjoyed it. I had a chance to watch an exclusive screening of it yesterday. It's not out yet, but I'm super excited for when it does go out. So when it does, let me know and we'll push it out.
Of course. Yeah, no, right now we're kind of doing final touches and submitting to film festivals, so it can't be out yet, but very awesome. You got like a little sneak peek.
Yeah, there you go. So I thought it was really interesting. So for a little bit more context, we don't want to give too much away, but the film really is exploring that idea of half sisters in comparison, and they kind of meet and explore, like they meet serendipitously on college campus.
Yeah.
So talk a little bit about, because you were the producer on it, director, you did like so many things. We'll get into your all-female crew in a bit too, but talk a little bit about like the thought process on how you got to writing this story. You were exploring your relationship with your sister a little bit, but how did it all kind of come together?
Yeah, of course. So I mean, yeah, the film is about a young woman, Mia, who finds out she has a half-sister and then becomes obsessed with her and starts stalking her. And that just to give more context around the film. But the whole process kind of came about is I started writing it. I met with my professors. That's kind of what you have to do in the honors program. And then I started writing it in the summer of, 2024, while I was interning actually at HBO Max. So it was very busy time. But I sat down and started writing in the idea. And it just kind of came out, like all those things kind of came out on the page. I went through like so many drafts and drafts of that script, like 10 or something crazy drafts over the summer, and just kind of like it evolved to this story. And it took a lot of process of like, okay, how am I going to write this? How am I going to do this? And then as I was writing it, I reached out obviously to like all my crew, and we kind of started putting it all together, and then just began producing it, helping to find locations, finding our cast and crew, our wonderful actress, Kaylen Guines. She is amazing, and she was like, I had seen her in other films, and I was like, I want her, and she hopped on, and then we later in the fall found Kayne Leonard, the person who plays Isabella, the half sister, and she was also amazing. She auditioned for the role, and I was like, yes, I want her. So we kind of performed it together, and then it just kind of took process in the fall, and then I began editing it in January, which was a very long process, but it was super fun.
Yeah. No, I really enjoyed it, and it was immediately emotional. Like, I think you kind of set up a couple of twists in it, like the way that Mia, right, was interacting with her mom, and then kind of like discovering who her dad was, and that was like a kind of lingering question at the beginning that you planted.
Yeah.
So I think it was a really, really awesome way to illustrate this dynamic between like families and sisterhood, but then also kind of like coming of age too on a college campus. There were some pretty intense moments in it as well.
Yeah.
So I think you just pulled it all together in such a beautiful way.
Thank you.
And so I'm so excited for anybody who's listening to this to be able to check it out at some point.
Thank you. Yeah, there's a lot of different themes going on within the piece, but I'm just, very, very happy with it.
Yeah. And so you've won a couple of awards, right, with it as well. So talk a little bit about that. How, for somebody who is a filmmaker or maybe aspiring filmmaker, let's say, like, how does somebody get, their film out there and recognition that it deserves?
Oh yeah, it's a very like hard. Well, it's definitely a tough process because there's like just so many people make awesome films every day. I was lucky enough to win the Hopwood Award for the Frank and Gail Beaver Award, which is a script writing prize at the University of Michigan. And that was really wonderful because I'm actually like I am a writer and I've taken like a lot of screenwriting classes, but I think that's like my weakest skill. So getting an award on that was really a huge honor. And I think like recommendations on getting your film out there, it's just like simply doing the work and making the films. You can't just like, you just have to like find your friends and just go out and do it. The best way to learn is through the experience. And I think we're so lucky today too with like social media platforms, just posting stuff on Instagram and TikTok, making little 1-minute films will help you just like learn how to do it and get on the ground and just go for it, and like easy ways to promote your film. So I definitely think that's like one way to like kind of find recognitions, and there's so many ways to like network with people. So that's definitely like a fun and easy way. Yeah.
Right. And it was smart too to be able to join podcasts and other things, not just my show.
No, yeah, get on a podcast.
Not just mine. I mean, we're still at the early stages of my show, but who knows? I just interviewed Jeff Hoffman for the episode before this, and he's a filmmaker, and he's won some awards too, in addition to being the original CEO of PricelineBooking.com. And so anyway, hopefully there's a little subtle plug for Jeff if he sees this. Definitely would love to get some eyes from Jeff on your film and others. So you were exploring this idea of the gaze in the film.
Yeah.
So and you talked about the film industry and having a lot of kind of male dominated perceptions and ethos and things like that. So talk a little bit about the exploration there, because I did know that going into the film, and I think it was a subtle play that maybe a male audience wouldn't quite recognize from the get-go. So talk about that a little bit.
Yeah, of course. So while we were designing the film, I knew I really wanted like a theorist intervention kind of within the film. So I looked at 2 essays, obviously Laura Mulvey, Visual Pleasure and Narrative Cinema, her essay, which is kind of the foundation of the male gaze. And I knew I wanted to basically explore the male gaze within the film, but rather than like just totally erasing it, how have women internalized the male gaze, and how has that kind of come into our lives? Because we've been subjected to so much male cinema. How can we change and subvert that? So another essay that I also looked at is Zoe Dursey's Gender and Cinematography, and she essentially talked about what happens when a woman holds the camera and how we can kind of create the female gaze and kind of subvert that male gaze. So we kind of open up with Mia, who is kind of this representation of the male gaze, and she basically kind of objectifies her sister, not so much like more in this thing of like wanting and feeling like, oh, I wish I could have been her. So we open the film, Isabella is always kind of portrayed in this like very objective view. She is kind of an object. Even one of the first scenes we see, the stalking kind of begins by Mia is in the law quad at Michigan, and she starts following her, and then there's all these flashes of objects of like what Isabella's wearing. So she's wearing like her purse, her nails, and that kind of begins this objectification of like Mia only seeing her as this desire of wanting to be her. But then slowly I didn't want to like lose Isabella and wanted to show that she had agency. So In the middle of the film, there's a store scene, which is actually a reference to Vertigo. There's the iconic, like, Jimmy Stewart's character sees Kim Novak's character in, like, the flower shop. And I wanted it to be like that, but instead, in that scene, the Kim Novak's character is very objectified. She's like, there's a mirror and she doesn't even look at herself. She's just purely an object. And I wanted to kind of reference that scene, but like subvert it. So in that store scene, Isabella looks back and she starts gaining more agency. We start actually moving the camera closer to her and letting her in. We see like more interior moments of her to kind of represent that she is a full human. And that's where the female gaze kind of takes over. And we see her rather as just an object of view, but as a person with emotions, with complexity. And we see how the story of Mia kind of obsessing her is like destroying her, and she becomes a human, and just becomes, like this whole, becomes like somebody again. So that was like, we really, from the get-go, like when we were shot listing this, we really wanted these theories to be at play and kind of represent that. And so that's how we kind of chose to shoot it in the film.
Yeah. Wow. I think that's fascinating because Mia was basically the representation of the male gaze, but she was a female, and then it kind of opened a doorway into the female gaze. So that's a very interesting and unique, I think, perspective.
It was something that I kind of set out to do, and I really found through the whole process when I first started, like I wanted to give Isabella, this happens like when I was editing the film, I wanted to give Isabella so much because I loved her as a character, but then I was like, no, I have to pull back, and kind of just found that through the whole process of making the film and editing, and
Right. And then there's this one really powerful moment where Mia actually helps Isabella right at the college party.
Yes, yeah.
So is that something that you're open to talking a little bit about?
Yeah,
because that was a pretty powerful moment.
It was a pretty powerful moment. So the kind of the scene before, Isabella kind of dealing with the trauma, she's like drinking a lot, and then kind of go meets the boy, and then kind of there's like a moment of like kind of some sexual assault. It's not super violent, or we tried to really handle it in a proper way because we don't want it to be an over dramatization of the film, and don't want to trigger anyone by it, obviously. So we really looked to like other films to how to portray that. And then, Mia comes in and saves her. And that was like another really important moment to me in the film. And I knew I kind of wanted it because I kind of wanted to represent like most women's experiences. 1 in 5 women are sexually assaulted, unfortunately. And on a
college campus, right? I remember hearing that during like orientation at University of Michigan.
It's really common, especially at the University of Michigan. I think we have some of like one of the higher rates, unfortunately. And so I wanted to really represent that and change that. And also like it was actually through the gaze, that moment was planned in that like this was the heightened Mia watching her. This would kind of be, if this was maybe like a male directed film, we would really like objectify Isabella and maybe like kind of go more into it, but I really wanted to pull away from that moment and make it about these two sisters finding each other and saving each other. So we really tried to handle that moment with care,
I'm glad you did it that way because, this is a sensitive topic, right? And who knows who's going to be listening to this. But I will say that this is the power of media and storytelling, right? Is like more people need to know that this is an issue. And this is a platform to be able to say, hey, like we need to not be burying these kinds of things. We need to be talking about them to be able to address these issues on campus. So
yeah, definitely.
We don't have to go too much deeper into that. But I'm glad you handled it the way you did. And also just the I guess the dichotomy there of like at the beginning, Mia and Isabella, like they felt like they destroyed each other's lives, right? But then in that moment, they saved each other.
Exactly.
And it took a little bit, and then you explore like the healing process too. So I thought it was just really well done.
Thank you. Yeah,
I'm glad you did it that way.
I really wanted it to be that way about like, I think men kind of in their lives has hurt them, but they're kind of finding each other and finding themselves through this relationship. And that kind of begins the process. Yeah,
that was great. So I want to ask you a few more questions here. One of them is about your crew, because we're talking about an all-female crew. So talk about the importance of that and talk about how it was so impactful being with an all-female crew. And feel free to shout out anybody that you want to there as well.
So many people I have to shout out. But I really knew when I started this film, I wanted it to be like majority female or as all female as much as we could, because like obviously if it's about a female story and about a female relationship, I want women behind the camera helping to create the story. So I first started with my lovely producer, Chloe Pfeiffer. She's an amazing woman, and she kind of helped me to build this crew. And then I found Rachel Altland, who is my director of photography. And she luckily brought like 2 other wonderful women with us, Alex Van Swergen and Lauren Donatoni, our camera operator. Love them both. They're incredible. But it was so amazing to be on this film with just a majority women crew. Like, not only director of photography, Rachel and I, we would being able to design these shots very like male gaze, female gaze, already sitting down, having these conversations with each other, how we're being really thoughtful about how we're going to shoot this film, and just having that woman relationship. We just kind of understood each other so well. And literally, like, I would be like, I'm thinking of this, and she's like, I was thinking of that, we just understood and knew each other so well. And I think being on a female crew is so fun, because I think there's just so much support and kindness. I think women really understand each other, and also just like understand how to communicate with each other. And we just kind of build this great community of like, we're making something really impactful and really fun together. And it's just a really great support system. And I think women are so thoughtful too. Like, one thing I really loved is like, we were always like, okay, how can we make this better? What can we do better? How can we look at this in new ways? And so that was really just an amazing support system throughout the film. Yeah.
That's awesome. Mm-hmm. Yeah, I would have loved to have been a fly on the wall at least, to see that all come together, because I do a lot of media work too, and make commercials for different companies and things like that. And funny enough, I do have guys that I work with, but the best video that we've done was filmed by a woman.
I think not to whatever. I think women are amazing. I think it's just, there's a level of difference that I've noticed. Not to like, there's amazing men who I've worked with too. I don't want to like ever say that, but the women that I've worked with, I think there's just such a level of thought and care that you really see, that I just really love when I'm working with one another. Yeah.
Sounds good. Mm-hmm. Well, I would love to show you our commercial.
Yes.
I'm going to shout out Alyssa Masters here.
Oh, yeah.
One of our team members at Maximize Media. She's awesome.
Of course.
So
Yeah, definitely.
I'll show you after the show. Cool. Well, I want to ask you another question, and I'll let you take the floor if there's anything else you want to share. But where does this go for you? Like, what do you imagine? I don't know if you can see out 3 years, but like maybe for the next year, like what's your plan? And if there's anybody who's watching this show, like, how can they help you get to the next level of where you want to be? That's
so fair. Well, listen, I'm looking for a job. No, no.
Be proud.
Be proud. No, I'm kidding. Basically, the next plan is obviously working on like final touches to the film, and then we're currently in the process of obviously submitting to film festivals. So hopefully, we're looking for like all that range, and kind of making a list of like what specific films that we want to target. We really want to hit like obviously very female forward films. But then from there, we're going to be posting eventually, hopefully to release it online. So when it comes online, please watch the film. But then also, I'm working for work, gonna try, looking on that,
Looking for work.
Working for work, yeah.
And that's okay. Like, hopefully somebody listening here will reach out to you and see if they can help. What kind of roles would be appealing to you if you had to name a couple?
Gosh, yeah, no. Obviously, like, still looking all around. Like, I love producing. That's been a major skill, having produced a lot of like around 8 short films myself already. But also looking at obviously directing. I love the work that you do there. I think it's so fun getting to work with actors. And also, I'm still new. I'm getting into the world, so production assistant, always a great role, teaches you everything.
Yeah. So are you looking for film, TV, like any of the above? Any
of the above. Film, okay. TV, yeah.
All right. Well, let's talk more offline.
There we go.
I'm conceptualizing a TV concept right now.
There we go,
so,
yeah.
I mean, it would require a lot of bootstrapping and a lot of hustle and grit and grind, but I think there's a lot of potential, and I'd love to hear more about the, more TV and movies and things that you're thinking about. Because I'm sure like your mind is always running with ideas.
Yeah,
right?
Exactly.
Yeah. Cool. Well, is there anything else that you'd like, to share with the show, and anything we didn't cover that we want to?
Maybe I would love to shout out my like costume designer and production designer, Camille Chippewa and Megan White. When we were making the film, clothing and makeup was really important to us, and also Sydney, our wonderful makeup artist. I really want to shout out them and their work because that was really intentional within the film. We were really intentional about when we were designing like the costumes and the production design to really make it like female forward. And that process really showed up throughout the film of like how we used color. We knew we wanted Isabella kind of in this femininity and these pinks to really stand out and shine. And then Mia more in these bland colors. But then as she kind of as she moves into this kind of sphere of like being obsessed with Isabella, she changes and wears more of these pinks and becomes more into this hyper femininity and kind of loses herself in the process. And one of my favorite scenes in the film actually is when they both kind of lose themselves after Isabella finds out that Mia actually is her half sister. And they're both on the log quad and they're both in white. And I love that scene so much because it kind of represents this like loss of themselves. So I just really want to shout out their work because that was just like so intentional within our film as well.
Cool. That's a great shout out. I'll also say something that I noticed having, gone to the University of Michigan and also living here in Ann Arbor, that I think was the film shot all in Ann Arbor?
Yes, shot all in Ann Arbor.
Okay, so I think that you guys did an excellent job of expanding the campus.
Oh,
and what I mean by that is, I saw the scene in the law quad, but then all of a sudden we were kind of like at a house, like a college house, and like that. Like the way that you made it look on camera, it made the campus in Ann Arbor look completely different to me than how I, experienced it day to day. So I thought that was pretty cool too.
Of course. And want to shout out Ann Arbor, want to shout out more getting the film incentives because I love Michigan and I think it's so beautiful. So definitely want more filming happening in Michigan for sure.
Totally. Yeah. Well, let's band together. Let's make something happen. We're trying to get podcasts, this podcast studio off the ground, content studio off the ground. We're trying to get all of these creatives together and collaborating and showing the value of media, showing the value of storytelling and things like that. And I think lifting people up like you, Claire, and others in the space is what we need to do to really help Ann Arbor and Detroit and Michigan Michigan on the whole to really see the value in what the work that we're doing.
Yeah, so. Definitely.
Cool. Anything else you want to share?
No, that's it for me, I think. But thanks so much. It was awesome.
Awesome. Well, thanks so much for coming on the show, Claire, and hopefully we'll have you back again. Let me know and let us know when your film drops.
100%, yeah.
We're not the same.
We're not the same, yes.
Perfect. All right.